Afternoon, everyone. We will now officially open this meeting of the Illinois Board Review for today, March 16th, 2023. I am Kenneth Woodson, Chair. The board and other members of the panel will introduce themselves, after which we will hear from the City of Philadelphia in terms of settlements, continuances, or withdrawals. After those preliminary matters are dispensed with, we will then hear our cases for today. Again, I'm Kenneth Woodson, Board Chair.
Good afternoon, Ralph Pincus, board member.
Steve Pettit, board member.
Roger S. Tennant, Senior Board Member. Good afternoon.
Ken Washington, board member.
Ryan McSherry, Board Counsel.
Richard Wade, Board Administrator.
Thank you. As you would imagine, these proceedings are being recorded by a court reporter as well as by Zoom. Okay. I'd like to hear from the City of Philadelphia. Who's representing the city's interest this morning in terms of withdrawals, continuances, etc.?
Good morning, Chairman Woodson. Mary Costello on behalf of the City of Philadelphia.
Good morning.
Or
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Sorry. Good afternoon.
I was confused.
It's been a long week. So we do have a few matters that have been resolved this afternoon.
Okay.
We have case number 1, that's appeal number HA 2021-005755, 630 Master Street for Joseph Smith. That has been resolved by agreement, which was forwarded to the board. It's a city affirm for the violations with a $500 fine.
Okay, just for a moment. We will then poll the board regarding HA-2021-005755, 630 Master Street, Joseph Smith. City affirm per agreement between the parties, including a $500 fine.
City affirmed per agreement between the parties with a $500 fine to be paid.
City affirmed per the agreement with a $500 fine to be paid.
City affirmed per the agreement with the $500 fine to be paid.
City affirmed per the agreement with a $500 fine to be paid.
Thank you very much.
The next matter is number 7 on the list. That's appeal number HA 2022-002349, 4328 Main Street with Andrew Molson as the appellant. That matter has been withdrawn by the appellant.
Withdrawn. Okay, thank you.
Number 8, that's appeal number HA 2022-002125, 900 Packer Avenue, Stadium Casino, RE LLC is the appellant, and that matter has also been withdrawn by the appellant.
Withdrawn. Thank you.
Number 11, that's appeal number HA 2022-002082, 5350 Ogontz Avenue, with Craig Geyer as the appellant. I believe that matter, the appellant has requested a continuance. And
Continuance. Okay.
yeah, it's their first continuance request, and the city is not opposed.
Okay. Thank you. Noted as continued.
Number 12, appeal number HA 2022-002094. That's 1705 North American Street. Terrence Froman Incorporated is the appellant. That matter has been resolved by agreement with the city affirm for the violations and a $500 fine.
Okay. Let's poll the board regarding HA-2022-002094, 1705 North American Street, Terrence Froman Inc. Settlement. City affirmed per the agreement between the parties with a $500 fine.
City affirmed per the agreement between the parties with a $500 fine.
City affirmed per the agreement with a $500 fine.
City affirmed per the agreement with a $500 fine.
City affirmed per the agreement with a $500 fine.
Okay.
And
Ms. Costello. Yeah.
next is number 13. That's appeal number HA 2021-005075 613 Emily Street. The appellant is German Popov, and that matter is
Pardon me?
that matter is moot.
Moot. Okay. Thank you.
And then the final matter that has been resolved is number 14. That's appeal number HA 2021-004653 2001 Beach Street for Celtic Conversions LLC as the appellant. That matter has been settled for City of Firm in regards to the violations and a $5,000 fine.
Okay, City of Perm per agreement, a $5,000 fine. Okay, just want to make sure I have those numbers correct. We will poll the board regarding HA 2021-004653 2001 Beach Street, Celtic Conversions LLC. City of Firm per the agreement between the parties, including a $5,000 fine.
City affirmed per agreement with a $5,000 fine.
City affirmed per the agreement with the $5,000.
City affirmed per the agreement with the $5,000 fine imposed.
City affirmed per the agreement with a $5,000 fine.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, Chris Sumner.
Okay, do we have any further matters?
No, that concludes our resolved matters.
Okay, do we have anything from the Water Department?
Yes, good afternoon, Chairman Woodson,
Good afternoon.
Alexandra Athanasiadis on behalf of the Philadelphia Water Department. Case number 2 on the list, HA 2022-004800. Address 2127 Arch Street, number B. That matter is moot.
Moot, okay, thank you.
Case number 3, HA 2022-004852, 827 Cathedral Road. That matter is withdrawn.
Withdrawn? Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Case number 5. Oh, I apologize. That matter is moot. The notice that was issued was withdrawn.
Okay, so 827 Cathedral Road is moot or
Yes.
withdrawn?
With the notice has been withdrawn since they appealed.
Okay, they
Yeah.
withdrew they withdrew the appeal, correct?
No, we withdrew the notice, so I'll say it's moot, sir.
It's moot. My
Yeah.
apologies. Please
No.
correct the record. It's moot.
Yes.
Okay.
Number 5, Chairman Woodson, HA 2022-004677, 4442 North Marshall Street. That matter is moot complied.
Moot complied. Thank you.
Case number 6, HA 2022-004494, 143 East Mount Airy Avenue. That matter is moot.
Moot. Thank you.
Case number 9, HA 2022-004835, 7526 Overbrook Avenue. That matter is moot.
Moot. Thank you.
And the last case on the list, the city is prepared to move forward on HA 2022-000729, 710 North Second Street. That case will be proceeding.
Okay, thank you. Are there any additional matters before we proceed to hear the open cases? If not, Mr. Wade, would you call the first case?
That brings us to case number 4, hearing appeal number HA 2022-002513, 2621 through 23 Jefferson Street, William T. Seal.
Okay, who's representing the city?
Good afternoon, members of the board. Jeffrey Cohen, representing the city of Philadelphia.
Okay, is there anyone present representing the appellant?
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. My name is Brandon Savrin of Pritzker Law Group. I'm representing the appellant. The appellant's principal, William T. Seal, is also in attendance.
Okay, will Mr. Teal be a witness today, Mr. Sabrin?
Yes, potentially.
Okay, so I'm asking because well, if you decide later, we'll need to swear him in. Okay, Mr. Cohen, do you have a witness?
Yes, John Leck, Director of the Audits and Investigations Unit of L&I.
Okay, is he present?
Yes, he is.
Oh, okay, that's what Mr. Leck, your lighting is terrible.
Apologize for that, Chairman.
Okay, would you raise your right hand so that you may be sworn?
Mr. Chair, just
Yes,
real
sir.
quick, what was the attorney's name?
Mr. Savrin is representing the appellant, Savran.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Lett, do you swear or affirm the testimony you give today be the truth so help you God?
I do.
Okay, thank you. You can place your hand down. Mr. Lett, what may be helpful though, if you have the ability to adjust your screen, if you move it so you aren't standing in front of the window, that that improves things considerably.
Excellent.
Perfect.
Excellent.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for the recommendation.
Okay.
You look so much better.
Yeah. Okay,
Great
Mr.
job.
Cohen.
With the board's permission, I'd actually like to start by looking at the statute, because with
Okay.
these types of cases, I think it's helpful to start from there. And to that end, I'm going to start by sharing my screen.
Okay.
This is the exhibits that the city submitted prior, both to the board and to Mr. Savrin. I think originally to Kurtz and Revnes, but then forwarded to Mr. Savrin. And we're just starting on here on page 3. So this is section 9-1004 of the Philadelphia Code, sub 6. The required conduct that's at issue here is that when a contractor starts a project, they're required to submit a subcontractor list. Contractor shall submit subcontracting identifying information in accordance with subsection 8A. And that more substantively down here, you can see contractor or prime contractor shall submit the following information to the department within 3 business days of the commencement of any work at the construction site. So that's the requirement, is if you're about to start work or within 3 days of starting work, submit your list of subs. And with that, I'd actually like to bring in Director Leck and start the questioning from there.
Yes, please.
Director, if you could please tell the board how long you've been with LNI and in what capacity.
Good afternoon. I started with LNI in March 2010. Initially, I was a building inspector. I promoted to supervisor in 2016. Starting 2017, I started with the Audits and Investigations Unit. Soon after that, I was promoted to manager of the Construction Inspections Unit in 2018. And I was currently the director of Audits and Investigations. That was a recent transfer. And prior to that, I was director of the Construction Inspections Unit since 2022.
And well, congratulations on your recent promotion. But as part of your duties in your recent position, have you had cause to look into the records for 2621 to 23 Jefferson Street and the contractor at that property, Baltimore Select Properties, LLC?
Yes, I did review the records.
Thank you. I'm going to jump in the packet to page 7. And Director, if you could tell me what this is that I have up on screen.
This is a copy of the building permit that's issued for the new construction at 2621 Jefferson Street. It was issued in June 28th, 2021.
And what type of work is it?
It was for the construction of a 9-family dwelling, ground up.
So a new construction?
Yes, sir.
And just scrolling down, all of the highlights in this document, I should note for the record, are the cities. They are not highlights in the original document. And what does it say? And I will make this bigger, please excuse me. What does it say highlighted here on page 8 in the packet?
States all provisions of the Philadelphia Code must be complied with, whether specified herein or not.
Oh, sorry. If I don't know if Mr. Savrin, if we could stipulate to the licenses for Baltimore Select Properties. Otherwise, I just want to very briefly establish that they are a licensed contractor.
Yes, of course, we could stipulate to that.
All right, then I will move on. Thank you. What is this document that I have up on my screen, starting on page 16 in the packet?
There's a license violation notice. It's the format that Audits and Investigations issues violations to license holders when there's a violation of their license requirements.
And who's the license holder in this notice?
Baltimore Select Properties. LLC.
And what's the violation at issue here?
Is they failed to submit the records of their contract, their subcontractors on the permit within 3 days of the commencement of work, 3 business days.
If I can ask, why is it important that a sub list is submitted prior to or within 3 days of the commencement of work?
The department wants to ensure that all entities and individuals on the project are properly licensed.
And what does it mean to be properly licensed? What does a contractor or subcontractor need to prove to the department to get a license?
The requirements are, they have to provide proof of insurance. In certain instances, they have to provide proof of technical training. For the general contractor license, they do have to provide safety training to obtain the license. And they ensure that all workers on their site are also have a minimal level of safety training.
Thank you. I'm going to scroll down in the packet. Let's scroll past this. This is just the Blur appeal. We don't need to go through this. Page 22 in the packet. What is this document that I have on screen?
That's an inspection report generated by an inspection done by Inspector Gerald Sobecki of North Central District. This is a past initial inspection for the work on the 9-family dwelling.
And what's the date of that inspection?
July 8th, 2021.
And did the contractor or did the inspector give the contractor the okay to start work?
Yes, he did.
And scrolling down here to page 23 and 24 in the packet, what are these photographs that are being shown on screen?
These are photos of the interior of the project from December 21st, 2021. They were also taken by Inspector Sobecki, who worked at the North Central District.
And because this is new construction, if these photographs are showing us an interior, is it safe to say that this is an interior that has been built per this building permit?
That'd be very safe to say.
And just for the record, you said these were December 21st, 2021. That is 167 days after the initial site inspection said it was okay to start. And scrolling down here, what is this photograph?
That's a photo of the exterior of the 9-family dwelling taken on May 9th, 2022. And that was taken by Audits and Investigations Inspector Wendell Stewart.
And is that the completed construction?
It looks to be near completed at that point.
Okay, near completed. And just for the record, May 9th of 2022 was 306 days after the initial site inspection passed and it was okay to start work. What is this email that I'm showing on screen?
This is an email that's generated in the Audits and Investigations Unit. Craig Carpel sent out an email to the listed email address on the contractor's license requesting information of subcontractors on the project.
And why would Craig Carpel send out an email of this type?
It could have been for multiple reasons. It could have been part of an audit process. It could have been, in this case, our Inspector Stewart noticed that no subs were listed initially by the contractor on the permit. So this was a matter of following up, but there could be multiple reasons why these notices were sent out.
And does this email also say or give a deadline to reply with a subcontractor list?
Yes, May 17th, 2022.
And just for the record, the date on this email, or actually, Director-elect, what is the date on this email?
Looks to be Tuesday, May 10th, 2022.
And just for the record, May 10th of 2022 is 307 days after the initial site inspection. And we can skip this photograph. What is this email that I'm showing on screen now?
This is a reply from the contractor with an attached document listing the subcontractors on the project.
And did the contractor in fact submit the subcontractor list on this date, May 14th of 2022?
Yes.
But based on your review of the records, this was the first time at which L&I had a subcontractor list for this project?
Correct.
And was the final inspection completed in this project 3 days prior on May 11th?
Yes, it was.
So 3 days after the final inspection passed, L&I received the subcontractor list.
That's correct.
And again, for the record, May 14th of 2022, the date on this email is 311 days after the initial site inspection passed and it was okay to start construction. And thank you very much, Director Leck. I would presume that I would reserve some time in case there is some redirect, but otherwise I can present Mr. Leck for cross.
Okay, Mr. Saverin, you have any cross?
Thank you. Be very brief. Mr. Leck, As far as you're aware, were there any other violations issued by the city with regard to this development project or this property while the development project was occurring?
I do not recall any, no.
And are you aware of any other violations of any titles of the city code against the owner or the prime contractor at issue
I'm
here?
going to object to this for on the purpose of relevance. Why are we examining all of the different things about this
Okay.
contractor?
Mr. Sabrin,
Yes.
in hearing the objection is sustained, but you certainly can establish a position in this when you present your case.
Okay.
If you
That's-
could focus on his testimony, that'd be preferable.
That's the entirety of my cross. I'll
Okay.
rest until I can present my my own case.
Okay, thank you. You have any further witnesses, Mr. Cohen?
No, thank you, but I would like to move the following exhibits into evidence. C2, which is the building permit. C4, which is the license violation notice. C6, which is the inspection report from July of 2021. C7, the photos from December of 2021. C8, the May 2022 photo of near completed construction. C9, the email from Craig Carpel to Baltimore Select Properties. And C11, the response email from Baltimore Select Properties.
Is there a C10?
There was, but we skipped that exhibit. We're not entering.
Okay. Any objections, Mr. Sabrin?
None.
Okay, so
Thank you.
admitted. Okay. Mr. Elect, I do have a few questions for you, and the others, members of the board may as well. Of the subcontractors list, do you know if there was any review to determine if those contractors were licensed in the city of Philadelphia and properly insured?
After reviewing the list, it was determined that there wasn't any issues with any of the subcontractors that were provided.
Okay, all right, thank you. Any other questions before we move to Mr. Sabrin?
I have a question for Mr. Leck.
Yep.
Mr. Leck, during your audit, did the subcontractors pay city wage tax? Do you know?
I do not have that information available to me, sir.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I have one question for Mr. Leck. And it's a reference to Mr. Pettit's question. Mr. Leck, good afternoon. How are you?
If you do well.
Mr. Pettit asked about city wage taxes. I'm asking, do you check to make sure they're tax compliant as well?
That is part of the audits and investigations process. We're limited on what action we can take if they're not tax compliant. There is ability to limit new permits from being issued and other actions, but the answer is yes, there is action that can be taken.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
For Mr. Leck. Mr.
Yes.
Leck, on photo number 23, it has an address of 1503 North Bailey Street. And also on photo number 28, it has an address of 2619 Jefferson Street. Could you explain to me why that is?
Yes, sir. So our inspectors, they use a photo app that uses geolocation to determine the address on their photos. Depending on the position in a particular parcel, it may read an adjacent parcel, not necessarily even on that street. It could be on the side street. But generally, it's within 50 feet of the property in question.
Well, if I can ask a clarifying question of Director Leck. Director, were these photographs stored in L&I's system under the building permit for 2621 to 23 Jefferson Street?
Yes, they were.
Thank you.
No more
Okay, so-
questions. No more questions, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so there were that is actually the building that was constructed by Baltimore Select Properties. Am I correct?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is
Okay.
Appellant's counsel.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, if there's nothing else, Mr. Sabrin, it's your turn.
Thank you very
If
much.
I may, I have a question first, please. I'm
Yes.
sorry, I was muted. I didn't realize that.
Yep.
If I get the time frame correctly, the work actually started in May of 2021, July 8th, 2021. the first violation notice, is this correct, Mr. Lech, was sent on May the 20th of 2022? Is that correct?
That is correct.
But the violation, as I understand it from your testimony, was the failure to provide this information within 3 days of the start of work.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's nothing else, Mr. Saverin?
Do I have the ability to share my screen, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, and the administrator will give you that permission.
Okay. Believe. Okay. Good afternoon, members of the board, and thank you for your time. I'm going to keep this brief and essentially just potentially ask a question or two of my witness, but otherwise basically give a legal argument off of the exhibits that.
Well, let's do this, Mr. Saverin. What I'd
Sure.
like to do, because we love to have the arguments at the end.
Sure. Okay.
And so if you have a witness, bring him, present him, and then we'll swear him in, and you can ask him the appropriate questions.
Mr. Seal, could you raise your hand so you could be sworn in?
If you could please unmute as well. Thank you.
Yes, good afternoon.
Actually, Mr. Saverin, you may want to introduce him so we all know for the record who we're speaking with.
Sure. This is William T. Seal. He goes by Travis. He is the principal of the prime contractor. That's Baltimore Select Properties LLC.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Seal, if you'd raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth so help you God?
I do.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Saverin?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Travis, is it the case that looking at the timeline that is established by the city's table of contents in its exhibit packet, which is on the screen now, do you take any issue with or find any of these dates to be inaccurate?
Let me see. From what I can see, I do not believe any of them are inaccurate that I'm aware of.
Okay, so therefore, is it the case that the city sent you an audit email on May 10th, as is indicated in this table of contents?
Correct. I believe that's correct.
And is it the case that your firm responded to that email 4 days later on May 14th, 2022, as is listed in this table of contents?
Correct. As soon as we were made aware of this issue on May 10th, we immediately gathered our subcontractor info, supplied it promptly, and as Inspector-elect, Director-elect indicated, there were no issues with the subcontractor supplied.
And if give me one moment to scroll through these pages, Travis. What's showing on the screen right now, is this a copy of the first violation notice you received from L&I? And does this state May 20th, 2022?
Correct. And this is the first we were made aware of the issue.
Okay. Because this is an exhibit that I don't believe the city showed, what's on my screen right now, which is page 30 of the exhibit packet and the ensuing 2 pages, is this a copy of the subcontractor list that you submitted to the city in response to the May 10th audit email on May 14th, 2022?
Yes, correct.
And Mr. Saverin, the city will stipulate to this sublist.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen. And I believe you already touched on this, Travis, but was it the case that prior to the audit email arriving to you on May 10th, 2022, that you were not aware of a requirement to submit a list of subcontractors to the city of Philadelphia?
Correct. We have SOPs and checklists for all of our permit submissions that we've used for a long time. This being a relatively new requirement or a new requirement at the time, it was not on our radar. But again, as soon as we were made aware of it, we promptly complied.
And let me ask you the same question that I attempted to ask the city's witness. As far as you're aware, was your firm issued any other violations by any city department in connection with the construction of this project?
No, none that I'm aware of.
Okay. Thank you. Those are all my questions for this witness.
Thank you. Mr. Cohen, you have any cross?
No, but thank you very much, Mr. Seal.
Okay.
Thank you.
I do have a few questions, and other members of the board may as well. Mr. Seal, how long has your company been in business?
We've been a licensed general contractor in the city since, I believe, 2018.
2018?
Mhm.
Have you managed any construction projects outside of your own company prior to 2018?
Not as a licensed general contractor.
Okay. Is this project your first new build, new construction, or major renovation project in the city of Philadelphia?
No, it is not.
You've done other projects in the city of Philadelphia
Correct.
that employed subcontractors?
Correct.
Did you submit those lists within the 3 days?
Once the requirement was enacted on projects that required it, yes. But my understanding is that was not a requirement, for instance, in 2018, 2019. This is a relatively new requirement.
And so your testimony is that this is the first project you've done where that requirement was in place?
Correct.
Okay. All righty.
I have a
And
question.
just one final thing then, Mr. Tennant. Do you have other projects underway as of now?
Yes.
How many?
A handful. I'm not sure exactly. 4 or 5.
Okay, 4 or 5 under construction now?
Correct.
All right. Mr. Tennant?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Travis, thank you for being here. How long have you had a license as a contractor in the city of Philadelphia?
Since 2018.
And you've renewed it every time it was required with the appropriate requirements such as your liability insurance and things of that sort?
Yep, correct.
Okay. You have an Eclipse account in the city of Philadelphia?
We do.
Okay, so that means there's an email associated with that account, correct?
Yes. Mhm.
And that's the way the city of Philadelphia does a newsletter informing contractors in regard to upcoming changes, and a time frame is laid out in that, sometimes 3-6 months that they give you before they implement new requirements. Do you see that email and get that newsletter?
I believe we or someone on our team who manages our Eclipse account gets that. Yes.
Right. So you mentioned earlier about standard order procedure, SOP. Someone is looking and viewing that. And that's how the city notified all contractors of this new requirement. So that's something you're saying your team missed?
It appears so. It's very possible. Yes. There are, as you know, there are, every one of those usually includes a number of changes that may or may not apply to particular contractors depending on their type of business. And it's a lot to keep up with. We try our best, but it is a lot of information, a lot of changing regs constantly. And we try our best.
But as a licensed contractor in the city of Philadelphia, it is your responsibility to understand what the changes are that are implemented to apply to your company as it applies to code regulations and procedures.
Correct. And by and large, we as a company do a very good job of staying on top of that. As Mr. Savern noted, we are in compliance and, in all other aspects at this time.
But in this case, are you saying that your company missed this requirement, which is a very important and large one?
We were unaware of it having been enacted, correct. And again, once made aware of it, we promptly complied.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. If there aren't any additional questions, what I'd like to do then, Mr. Savern, you've noted that you have a final argument legal argument you'd like to make. And I'd invite Mr. Cohen to also, if he has any final argument, to give that after you completed your argument. Okay? Mr. Savern?
Thank you, Chairman Woodson. Members of the board, I think, as is apparent through the testimony you've heard today, this was an error, admittedly, an error that went against the requirements of the city code. But it is not an error that was made intentionally. It is not an error that intentionally or accidentally was exploited in any manner to the detriment of the public or the city. All of the subcontractors that were used, as the L&I representative testified today, are licensed and current in payment of relevant taxes. Mr. Seal and his company operate a clean, safe operation, both on this property and on the others they've been involved with in the past 5 years. So seeing as this was a genuine mistake of ignorance, we would ask you to consider significantly reducing this fine, as a $2,000 fine with regard to one project for a small general contractor is significant. And that's why Mr. Seal felt it worthwhile to hire me to come here today, of course. That concludes my argument. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cohen?
Mr. Saverin correctly characterized this as a mistake of ignorance, but ignorance of the law is no excuse. And actually, I'd like to show the code back on my screen for just a second. There's a separate provision that I didn't highlight because it wasn't at issue in this case. Down here, sub 6I, contractors shall cooperate in any audit or investigation by the department. And William Seal and Baltimore Select Properties did cooperate. No one is saying they didn't. But I think what's at issue here is that they cooperated after they were selected for a random audit. The random audit was within a couple of days of finalizing this project. And as you heard Director-elect testify to, the whole purpose of getting these sublists in advance or within 3 days of commencement of the start of work is that we want to make sure that all of the contractors or the subcontractors being used have all the appropriate licensing, insurances, and trainings. And this is a case where they did. There are other cases where they didn't. And unfortunately, L&I simply does not have the resources to go after or to investigate every single building permit that has been issued in this city, which is why the random audit system exists. In this case, Baltimore Select was chosen for a random audit because it was determined at about the point where the project was near finished that they had not submitted a sublist, and that this was a requirement under the law. And in the building permit, it even said you are required to comply with all provisions of the Philadelphia Code. And this provision of the Philadelphia Code is so important that City Council chose it for Class 3 status. The reason why the fine is a Class 3 fine is because City Council thought, and thus they imbued it with their legislative expertise, they thought this is that important. It is important that contractors submit these sublists to L&I so we know there are insurances and trainings in place before the job starts. Otherwise, there may be catastrophic consequences if there is an uninsured worker working for an unlicensed sub who gets hurt on the job. What happens in that instance? Who is looking out for that worker? So because of that, the city, and I believe there's no real testimony or evidence here that this didn't happen. It's basically up to the board to affirm that it did happen and to say that because City Council has said this is a $2,000 single violation, that's what the penalty should be. Because again, this is the law. It is required to protect worker safety. It is required to protect, frankly, the liability of the general contractor who is using these subcontractors, and it shouldn't be brushed aside. So I would urge the board to vote city affirmed. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Cohen. I'm going to invite the board to join me in a breakout session for a few minutes. It's now 2:02.
Actually, members of the board, could I please add one thing that a coworker pointed out to me?
Yes.
Section 9-1004 sub 10C, any person who violates provisions of subsection 8, the subcontractor information provisions, shall have committed a Class 3 offense. The use of the word shall indicates that it's mandatory.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The The board has listened to all the arguments and the testimony in this matter, and we're prepared now to render decision. And I think before we actually do that, and I will formally do what we should do, which is to poll the board regarding HA-2022-002513, 621-23 Jefferson Street, William T. Seal. We've evaluated everything, and the board's vote today is whether or not the violations that were written were valid. That's the parameters that we're voting within. The amount of the fines are beyond our authority. The tax review board is the appropriate place to appeal a fine amount, not the Illinois Board of Review. And so I just want to say that as a context for our vote. City affirmed.
City affirmed.
City affirmed.
City affirmed.
City affirmed.
Thank you very much. That's the vote. Mr. Savrin, you may appeal our decision, as you know, the Court of Common Pleas, if you choose. Thank you very much for your participation, you and your client. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You as well.
Thank
Okay.
you, members of the board. Thank you very much, Mr. Savrin.
All righty. What are we doing next, Mr. Wade?
That brings us to case number 10, hearing appeal number HA 2022-002557, 2643 Titan Street, Frank Kumas.
Good afternoon, members of the board. Jeffrey Cohen again for the city of Philadelphia.
Mr. Cohen, is anyone here representing Frank Kumas?
Good afternoon. My name is John Taylor. I'm counsel for Frank Kumas, the builder.
Okay.
You have a witness here as well, Ms. Danielle Switenko.
Okay. Good afternoon, sir. Mr. Cohen, do you have a witness for today?
Yes, the city's witness is John Leck, who was previously sworn.
Okay, this is file number 10. Okay, all righty. Well, for purposes of today, Mr. Leck, unfortunately, we need to swear you in for each case. So if you raise your right hand, do you swear or affirm the testimony that you give today be the truth so help you God?
I do.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Cohen.
Actually, I'd like to start this in the same manner that we did the last one.
Okay,
Starting by sharing my screen and showing on screen the code provisions that are applicable.
I'll turn it on. So here's the code.
okay, someone should be muted. We can hear your conversation.
So here we are looking at page 4 in the city's exhibits packet. And actually, this is the example from the previous case of a case where, because the sublist wasn't submitted until later, there was actually a subcontractor who was not licensed at the time that performed work. And we see here required conduct 9-1004 sub 6. Contractors shall submit subcontractor info in accordance with section 8. And under sub 7, prohibited conduct, no contractor shall employ an unlicensed subcontractor to perform any activity that's regulated under this section of the code. And of course, we looked previously at sub 8A, within 3 days of the commencement of work, a subcontractor list or subcontractor information must be provided to L&I. And with that, Director Leck, if you are ready, if you could please tell us how long you've been with L&I and in what capacity.
Thank you. I've been with L&I since 2020 or 2010. Apologize. I started off as inspector, promoted to supervisor. I was chief investigator for audits and investigations prior to being made manager of the construction unit and director of the construction unit. I'm currently director of the audits and investigations unit.
And in the course of your new duties, have you reviewed the records for 2643 Titan Street and the general contractor Kumas Homes LLC?
I have.
And I'm going to scroll now here to page 8. What is this document that I have on screen?
It is the permit allowing new construction of a multifamily 3-family dwelling at 2643 Titan Street.
And who is the contractor or general contractor on this permit?
Kumas Homes LLC.
And actually, I'm going to scroll down. Well, let's scroll down to page 9. And first, if you could read the provision that's highlighted.
All provisions of the Philadelphia Code must be complied with, whether specified herein or not.
And I'm going to scroll down to page 11. What is this document that I have on screen?
It's a notice from the property owner switching contractors to name Kumis Homes LLC as the prime contractor on the permit, and also noting that no work has previously taken place prior to this change.
And just briefly, what's the date on this letter?
September 30th, 2021.
Thank you. I'm scrolling down to page 12 in the packet. What is this document?
Again, that is the license violation notice. License violation notices are tickets or fines assessed for violations of the Title IX.
And actually, before we get into the violations, I will note for the record, there is a violation listed in here in error for lack of insurances. The general contractor itself, Kumis Homes, was later found to have insurance throughout the period at issue. The city is not seeking an affirmation of that violation that, again, was written in error.
Actually, if the board, if I may please speak to the board, that is an important admission. We are here today.
Okay, Mr. Taylor, you can make that argument later, not now.
Oh, no, this is,
You asked for permission, Mr. Taylor. And what I'm saying to you is that I'd like Mr. Cohen to finish his presentation and then you can present your argument, okay?
thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Cohen?
Thank you very much. Director Leck, if you could please tell us what the violation that's currently shown on screen is stating.
It's a violation for not submitting the subcontractor list to the department within 3 days of the commencement of work.
And now I'm scrolling to page 13, again, past the unhighlighted violation that's not an issue. This highlighted third violation, what is that stating?
It's a violation for hiring an unlicensed subcontractor, Edco Insulation.
And I'm going to scroll down now. You'll bear with me. To page 20 in the packet. What is this document that we have on screen?
That's an inspection report for an initial inspection performed October 5th, 2021 by Inspector Jack Flanagan, saying that they were okay to start the project.
Thank you. And what is this document, or what is this photograph that I'm showing on page 21 in the packet?
That's a photo from the permit record for the main permit taken by Inspector Flanagan on November 10th, 2021, and it shows excavation started at the site.
And what is shown in page 22 in this photograph?
That's a photo of the subject property in mid-construction. If you can scroll down, I could tell you the date.
Oh, sorry.
That's January 7th, 2022, and that was taken by Audits and Investigations Inspector Ramos.
And just noting for the record, January 7th of 2022 is 95 days after the initial inspection report was passed on October 5th of 2021. And what am I showing now on page 24 in the packet?
That's another photo taken by Inspector Ramos on April 7th, 2022. It looks to be considerably more complete than the last photo.
Thank you. And again, noting for the record, April 7th, 2022 is 185 days after the initial site inspection on October 5th. And I'm scrolling down now to page 26. What is this document that I have on screen? And please bear with me, I will, there we go. I will increase the size.
That is an email from Audits staff Craig Carpel to the contractor Kumis Homes requesting a list of subcontractors be supplied to the unit.
And what's the date on this email?
Tuesday, April 12th, 2022.
And does this email state that they have been selected for a department audit?
Yes, it does.
And what are they required to respond with? What information are they required to supply and by when?
They need a response by April 19th, 2022, and they need a complete list of subcontractors and what capacity they worked on the project.
And I'm scrolling down now to page 27. What is this that I'm showing on screen?
That's a response from Kumis Homes. Looks like Danielle Svitenko on April 14th, 2022, with the attached list of subcontractors.
And now I'm scrolling down, please bear with me, to page 29 through 30 in the packet. Is this the subcontractor list that was attached to that email?
Yes,
And specifically looking at page 30, what is the highlighted contractor or subcontractor that performed insulation work?
Edco Insulation LLC.
And-
Mr. Cohen, can you make that larger, please? It's hard to
Yes.
read that name.
Sorry, can the board see these lettering? The
Yes,
lettering now?
yeah, that's
Okay.
much better. Thank you.
I'm just going to scroll over here where it says under the column has not commenced work. What was the response from Kumas Homes?
Oh, that this work has not started yet.
Thank you.
So the date of the submission of this list.
But let's scroll down, if you'll bear with me, to page 32. What is this that I have on screen currently?
That's Edco Installations LLC's contractor license,
When was the expiration of this license?
January 1st, 2022.
And I'm going to scroll down now to page 35. What is this document?
That is another copy of Edco Installations contractor license,
And when was it reissued?
May 13th, 2022.
So there's a 5-month gap between January 1st of 2022 and the reissuance on May 13th of 2022.
Yes, close to 5 months.
Thank you. And I'm scrolling down now to page 38 in the packet. What is this that I have on screen?
That's a photo of the completed installation taken by Inspector Stan Sawinski on
So I know
April
you have to turn your head. I'm
April
sorry.
21st, 2022.
And was insulation installed within the subject premises as of April 21st of 2022?
Yes,
And was that during the 5-month gap when Edco was not licensed?
it was.
And just to establish for the record, is page 39 an additional photograph of that installation from the same date?
Yes, it is.
Thank you very much, Director Leck. I have no further questions, but would just reserve some time for redirect if necessary.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Taylor, you have any cross?
Actually, Your Honor, we came here today with the understanding that there was a workers' compensation alleged violation. That's
Mr. Taylor, I'm a little confused though. You submitted an appeal of the violation notices, right?
Your Honor, we have not been able to negotiate a settlement because we were under the understanding there was a $4,000 violation. It's not. It's a $2,000 violation. Hence, I have not been able to advise my client and his due process has been violated.
Okay, wait, before we,
That is why, I don't mean to cut you off with all due respect. We submitted to the board proof of workers' compensation insurance yesterday. We have tried to speak to Mr. Cohen, over the phone, but he doesn't return our phone calls. Had we had this conversation, we could have known that we weren't going to be fighting a workers' compensation violation.
Mr. Taylor, let me ask you.
Advise my clients.
Wait.
correctly.
Well, no, Mr. Taylor, did you see the written violations notice in this matter?
Yeah, it says workers' comp violation.
That's what it says?
Yes.
Would you put that on your, would you mind share your screen and show us what you reviewed?
I apologize for raising my voice. I apologize.
Okay.
If you look at, there's a $1,000 violation under 91004.
Well, what I asked you to do, can you put that on share your screen so
Oh,
we can see
yes,
what you're reading?
Absolutely, I apologize.
And is that the formal written violation notice you received from the Audits and Investigations Unit?
Can you see the screen?
Yes. And
Okay.
if you go back up to the top and show me what correspondence you're reading.
Right here, 91004.5A1.
Okay. And
So,
and also right below that, after review submitted subcontractors list.
yeah, we're fighting, we understand that is an open,
Okay, now go back up to the very top.
Yeah.
Is that the first page of the violation notice?
this is the first page of the violation notice.
Okay, well, now stop there. No subcontractor list submitted. Now scroll up a little bit more. Okay, and this was on May 20th, 2022, correct?
Correct.
Now, What was just presented by Mr. Cohen was his review of the violation notices of his review of the violation notice and all the violations that are at hand here, which is that $2,000 no subcontractor list. Are you prepared today to offer a defense for that?
No, and I'll tell you why.
Okay,
Because we were, when I was advising my clients, I was advising him based on the understanding that the city was seeking an additional $1,000 for a workers' comp violation that we just learned minutes ago is not going to be enforced because it's impossible.
If I
Okay.
could provide some
And I can't
clarification.
advise, I didn't advise my client and he's not here with me.
okay, Mr. Taylor, but also did you read the whole violation notice, everything, every page?
Yes, but the problem is. we were
Okay,
t-
so no, I'm asking you this. So you should be prepared to, this is your hearing that you submitted an appeal for, you should be here prepared to argue and defend every aspect of that violation notice.
Not necessarily. because
Okay, but that's your
you
choice.
can't- No, this is why it's appealable. It's
Okay,
appealable
well, let's do
because-
this. Let's do this.
Let's say a prosecutor, let's say you're about to have a trial and it's a murder trial, and then you find out that they're just saying they're lowering the charges. How could you have and then you're not able to talk to your client? My client is across the city because we're talking Zoom. I can't advise my client whether he should have taken 2 offers that were presented by the city, because now we know that the city isn't going after a workers' comp violation. I have not been able to provide.
Okay, Mr. Taylor, that's your legal strategy. Let me hear from Mr. Cohen. Mr. Cohen?
Thank you. Just to provide some clarification on the timeline, this past Friday, so 6 days ago, I did reach out over email to Mr. Taylor. We made an offer. Unfortunately, after a back and forth over email over the next 6 days or 5 days, we were unable to reach an agreement. In an email, I believe yesterday, though it may have been Tuesday, I did mention that the city was not seeking the insurance violation, but that the 2 other violations were of a total amount of $3,000. That would be the no subcontractor list submission and the hiring of an unlicensed sub violations. And I explained how that fit into the city's offer. Unfortunately, we were unable to reach a negotiated agreement as of, I think, actually 30 minutes before the board started this hearing. Which is why we are having a hearing today. But this was explained and the city did try to communicate, though I will admit it has been difficult. I have not been able to be reachable by phone for quite some time.
Okay, let's do this. I will offer this as an opportunity. Mr. Cohen, I don't know if you are you probably aren't representing the city on this final matter, number 15, I believe it's a water department case. That's not your
correct, I'm
matter.
not.
I will suspend the vote on this and continue it, give you 2 gentlemen an opportunity to have a conversation now, if you'd like, while we hear this other case, then we'll recall it. How's that? Does
Okay,
that get you closer to an opportunity to settle this?
we shall see. Thank you.
Okay,
can-
so for the record, we're going to continue this matter until after we've heard case number 15 and we'll come back to it.
Just
Thank
a
you.
moment, just a moment.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Taylor, the chairman has said that he would offer an opportunity for you and Mr. Cohen to speak now. Are you in agreement with doing that, or do you?
Yeah, I have to speak to my client and I can speak to Mr. Cohen in a breakout room. I mean, if you're able to do that, that'd be great. You could put us both in a breakout room and then I can call my client on the phone and then just kind of, work this matter out.
Okay, Mr. Wade, is there a breakout room available for them?
Yes, there is.
Okay, there's a
Thank you.
breakout room available for you, gentlemen.
Room 3 will be coming up. Okay? If your client wants to join, I can put them in there as well.
Let's do it this way. Mr. Wade, I have your email. What I can do is if my clients, I can talk to my clients first on the phone, then I can bring them into the breakout room. I can email.
Well, we're going to be in the middle of a hearing. I'll do my best. If I see them join, I'll shuffle them over. Okay?
Okay,
Hold on one second. Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Just so I'm clear,
Yes.
I'm sorry, Mr. Taylor, are you agreeing that the violation did occur?
He's in the breakout room.
I think he left Mr. Washington before he could get you. He didn't hear your question. He's now there in the breakout room. So you
Okay.
can ask that when he comes back, though,
Okay,
if you'd like. Okay, let's move on to the final case. I hope this is the final case.
Alex, are you okay? Is your witness okay? They're on now.
Yes, I see him
Okay.
on again. Thanks, Richard.
Okay, this is case number 15, hearing appeal number HA 2022 000729, 710 North Second Street, Hadar Nassimi.
Okay, who's representing the city?
Good afternoon again, Chairman Woodson, Alexandra Athanasiadis on behalf of the city.
Okay, Nassimi.
Yes.
Oh, okay. And you're represented by legal counsel?
Yes. Yes.
Sir, would you put your name on the record, please?
David Denenberg on behalf of the AVI Developers LLC, the owners of 710 North Second.
It's ABI Developers LLC?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, all right, thank you. All righty, Ms. Athanasiadis, do you have any witnesses today?
I do, Chairman Woodson. The city plans to call Mr. Taji Ballard.
And Mr. Ballard present so that we may swear him in?
He was present. I notified Mr. Wade. He's been logging on and then for some reason he's been getting kicked. Oh, there he is. I see him now. Yes,
Okay,
he's on.
all right.
Mr. Chairman, before
Yes,
the
sir.
case proceeds, I just want to put on record that Mr. Denenberg and I have known each other for many years, and we have a relationship regarding real estate matters that sometimes he will handle and I will refer them to him. I have no involvement at all or knowledge of this particular matter, but I think I did want the board and the parties to be aware that we have a cordial relationship.
Thank you. And in line with our policy of transparency, I will ask both the counsel, Ms. Alexandra Athanasiadis, if you have any concerns about Mr. Pincus sitting in judgment in this matter.
No, Mr. Pincus, if you feel you can be fair and impartial in your personal relationship, won't affect your judgment, I have no objection to you staying on. If you feel like you should recuse based on your own interactions with Mr. Denenberg, I leave it to you, but the city has no objection.
Okay, Mr. Den.
I'm going to recuse myself because it's more than a personal relationship. It's one in which I do receive from time to time referral fees. So I believe I have to recuse myself.
Okay, thank you very much. Let the record note that Mr. Pincus has recused himself from participating in this this matter. Mr. Denenberg, he chose to recuse himself before you had a chance to say anything. So unless there's something critical you need to offer, we will proceed with the hearing.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's get started then.
Good afternoon, Chairman Woodson. As indicated, Alexandra Athanasiadis representing the city in this matter. As you're aware, this matter has been before the board several times previously. This is the fifth listing. This case is in front of the board as property owner of 710 North Second Street has appealed a notice of defect that was served on January 27, 2022. The property is owned by Avi Developers LLC. The appellant in this matter, what was indicated as Mr. Hadar Levy, made a complaint via 311. It was received by the Streets Department on January 22nd, 2022. On January 27, 2022, the Philadelphia Water Department Sewer Maintenance Unit went to the location, drilled boreholes, and conducted a dye test. The dye was shown in the vent pipe, indicating that the pipe was defective for 710 North Second Street. And as of the most recent reinspection date of November 26, 2022, repairs have not been made. The city will be calling Mr. Taji Ballard, who was the crew chief on the issuing notice in this matter.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Ballard, if you raise your right hand so that you may be sworn. Mr. Ballard, do you swear or affirm the testimony you give today be the truth so help you God? Mr. Ballard, did you hear me? We can't hear you. Your sound is not coming through.
Commissioner,
Yes,
do I have a chance to make a brief opening?
you will after, what we normally do is that we ask each attorney to present their case and make their openings at that time, as opposed to segregating it out into openings and then argument. And
Thank
so you'll do that when it's your opportunity. Mr. Ballard, you think you're ready for us yet? Nope, you're not coming through. Okay, Mr. Marrero, is there anything you can do to help us here? Let's do this. What we may need to do, Mr. Denenberg and Ms. Athanasiadis, we may need to go off the record to give our IT person opportunity to try to get your witness connected to us. I don't want
It's
to.
coming back on now.
Okay.
Can I be heard?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Good.
Okay. All right, sir. All right. If you raise your right hand so you can be sworn. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you give today be the truth so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you. You can place your hand down. Okay, I think we're ready to go, Ms. Athanasiadis.
Thank you, Chairman Woodson. Mr. Ballard, can you please state and spell your name for the record?
Yes, Taji, T as in Tom, A as in Apple, H as in Harry, J as in Justice, E as in Edward, E as in Edward, last name Ballard, B as in boy, A as in Apple, L as in Larry, L as in Larry, A as in Apple, R as in Roger, D as in dog.
And by whom are you employed?
City of Philadelphia, allocated to the water department, the sewer maintenance unit,
And how long have you been working in the sewer maintenance unit?
10 years. Well, July 15th of this year would make it 10 years.
Okay. And what is your current job title?
Sewer maintenance crew chief.
And how long have you been a sewer maintenance crew chief?
April 12th, 2021.
Okay,
So roughly close to 2 years at this
close to
point.
2 years. And what was your position with the Philadelphia Water Department prior to being sewer maintenance crew chief?
I was a sewer maintenance inspector,
And what were,
AKA a crawler.
I apologize. Say that again?
I said AKA a crawler in simpler terms.
Okay. Can you please tell the board, we'll start with being a crawler, if you will. What were your duties and responsibilities as a crawler?
Outside of the main duty was to actually make entry into the sewer, to check the sewer for defects and things like that. Go out, regular routine work, doing dye test on cave-ins, checking depressions, sewer gas odor, checking for choked sewers, checking properties for WC to see if it's sewage or fresh water, just those type of things. Anything to do with sewage in the city of Philadelphia, we took care of.
And when you were a crawler, did you have occasion to draft the defect notices?
Yeah. Actually, being a crawler, the notices were directly coming from me, per se, my word, I should say, because I'm the one making entry into the sewer and IDing what I'm seeing a defect and then reporting back to my crew chief. So things that were in the sewer directly through the crawler, things topside, everybody can witness, crew chief, supervisor, anybody on site.
And what were, when you say topside, what is something that would be visible topside?
Things that are visible topside are defects in curb traps, defects in vent pipes, structural defects sometimes, but in regards to the plumbing work, topside things are the vent pipe. Curb trap it's at the bottom of the vent pipe, but you can still see it without making entry into the sewer. Obviously you can look down into a manhole from just opening the manhole. So those type of things are topside.
Okay. And when you're topside, if a dye test is performed, is it possible to see the dye topside?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay. And are you familiar with the property address of 710 North Second Street?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And do you recall how that address became known to you?
Yes.
Okay. And how is that, sir?
Regular routine work. We issued a work order ticket to go out to the job site, and
Okay.
whatever the type of job it is, it's listed on the ticket, whether, like
Okay.
I said, it's a cave-in, depression, water in the cellar, one of those different type of, that's not all we do, but those are like the gist of it. So regular routine, yeah,
Okay. So I'm going to be directing you. Can you see my screen, sir?
yes,
Okay. This has been previously marked as City 1, and this is a City Works record.
yes,
Okay. Do you see that?
yes,
Okay. And is this a document that's kept in the normal course and scope of Philadelphia Water Department business?
yes,
Okay. And do you see where my cursor is located?
excuse me, yes,
Okay. And can you read where my cursor is, what the comments say?
yes.
Ms.
You-
Athanasiadis, would you mind if focusing that a bit? I'm having difficulty reading it myself.
Sure. Is that better, Chairman Woodson?
Yes,
Or
yes.
I could do more.
Yes, much better. Thank you.
Mr. Ballard?
Yes, would you like me to read it out loud?
Yes.
Okay, comments, streets received on 1/21/2022 at 1:55 PM. Caller name Levy Hadar, you see his phone number, he called 311. General comments, they notate where the defect is in the streets department. The way they break it down, is it in the parking lane, driving lane, footway, so forth and so on. In this situation, it's notated in the parking lane.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is it accurate that you were assigned this work order on January 26, 2022, based on this record?
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
Okay. And is this how the Philadelphia Water Department became aware of what was in the parking lane, and more specifically described as the street condition, a depression?
Correct. This is how the sewer maintenance unit was, this is how it was brought to the attention of the sewer maintenance unit. Correct.
Okay. Just give me a second, sir. And there are some notes here, but I'll reserve that. Now, you ultimately went to this property, correct? You were the crew
Yes.
chief on that day?
Correct.
Okay. And I'll be showing you what's previously been marked as City Exhibit 2.
Okay, we're gonna write it down.
Can you see my screen, Mr. Ballard?
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay.
There
Can
it
you see
is.
my
Yes.
screen? Okay.
Yes.
And can you tell the board, what is this I'm showing you?
A notice of defect.
And what is the date of this notice of defect?
January 27th, 2022.
And did you fill out any of the information on this notice of defect?
Yes.
Okay. And what is the service address?
710 North 2nd Street, Philadelphia, PA.
Okay. And your name is listed here as the crew chief, correct? T. Ballard?
Yes. Yes, that is me. Correct.
And was Mr. J. Mack would have been the crawler that particular day?
Correct.
Okay. And what is checked off in this notice of defect? Where is the defect located?
Vent pipe B, which the breakdown, I guess we'll get to that later on, but it's the vent pipe.
And there's something checked off here, the dye placed, and it's difficult to read, but I believe it says
But-
borehole.
Yes, borehole. So we typically just try to give information shorthand as far as where we placed the dye, where did it show, what was defective. We try to give as much information as we can on a notice of defect to help out the property owner.
And what is a borehole?
It's a hole made inside of a depression to be able to water and trace dye to try to ID a defect.
Okay. And what is a vent pipe?
A vent pipe, AKA FAI, which is a fresh air intake, is supposed to let the sewer gas odor off because there's sewer gas odor everywhere, methane and everything. It's supposed to let that air out instead of into the properties where it becomes an issue. So that's what the FAI does. And it also gives access to the curb trap to make it easier for plumbers to be able to snake the line from the curb side.
Okay. And how was the determination made in this particular case that the vent pipe was defective?
Through two avenues. One, a visible inspection, and then the dye test, the trace dye.
Okay, can you please explain how the dye test works?
Yeah, so after, well, we pull up on the job site, we assess the job site, we look at everything. When we noticed there was a depression, well, obviously we knew it was a depression, but sometimes the tickets may say depression, the cave-in might have already formed by the time we got there. It hadn't, so we drilled the hole. I want to say the hole is maybe 1.5 inches, 2 inches wide, couple feet deep, go down, and then we run water from a hydrant, put trace dye, and then we check the sewers. We check anything in the vicinity that could be possibly impacted by this defect, i.e. Vent pipes. Sometimes we serve notices to utility companies. So if there's a utility box nearby close to the defect, we check all those things, but that's the general wrap up of how we do it.
Okay, and can you explain, so there's dye placed through the borehole?
Yes.
And then how is it determined when that dye test indicates that something is defective?
Once you see that trace dye somewhere where it shouldn't be, then you know it's a defect, because if we dye, there's times that we dye test and no dye shows at all. So, i.e. no defect on a part of a homeowner or utility company, we refer it back to the streets department and go from there. But if we see that colored trace dye, then there's a defect. That means there's an opening somewhere, water's getting through, and that means dirt is also getting through every time it rains, water is washing the foundation away.
Okay, and why is it important for the vent pipe to be in good working order?
Multiple reasons, but the one of the biggest reasons is for the public at large, to make sure it's a safety concern. You want to have all the plumbing intact, because if not, then you have issues like this where holes can open up, they become tripping hazards, and not just tripping hazards. I've seen holes swallow trucks. So all in all, it's a safety concern.
Are there any safety concerns for the property owner whose vent
Yes.
pipe this is as well? And what are those safety concerns?
Outside of the hole, sewage, sewer gas odor and sewage not properly exiting the property, that's an issue. Because it's waste. You don't want waste building up inside the property. So for the safety of the property owner or the tenants, whoever is occupying this dwelling, it is absolutely a must that the plumbing is in good working condition.
Now, were you working topside that day as crew
Yes.
chief? And
Yes.
did you see the dye?
Yes.
Okay. And who's responsible for the maintenance and repair of vent pipes?
Property owners.
Okay. Do you need to enter a property to determine whether there's a defect to a vent pipe?
No.
Okay. Now I'm going to be showing you. Just give me 1 second. just for purposes of the record, I'm going to show you again the notice of defect that was issued. And you indicated that property owner was responsible, correct?
Yes,
And is that why in this notice of defect, property owner is listed as Avi Developers LLC?
correct.
Okay. Now I'm going to be showing you, give me a second, sir. The customer responsibility chart. Do you see my screen, Mr. Ballard?
Not
Not
yet.
yet? Okay.
Okay, there we go.
Okay. So this is the a customer responsibility chart.
Mhm.
And this indicates the pipe, would you agree with me on this chart, is letter G?
Correct.
Okay. Do you see that on this diagram?
Yes,
Okay. And whose responsibility is it to maintain, as we indicated, the vent pipe?
the customer, AKA the property owner.
Okay. And that's all I have for that. Now, there were re-inspections done to the property, and I'll represent to the board. You were not the inspector that went back out to re-inspect this property, but you did review some records, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I'll be sharing my screen again. Okay. Do you see my screen, Mr. Ballard?
It's loading up as we speak.
Okay.
Okay, yes.
Now, this is page 7 of what's been offered as City Exhibit 2. Can you
Okay, yep.
please tell the board what this document is?
This document is a re-inspection ticket. So
Okay.
one of the
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
it's like I said, it's an NOD re-inspection ticket. So the water department, after we do what we do, there's other units that come and follow up to make sure the defects were corrected properly. And that's what this indicates, that there was a follow-up
Okay.
to check on the defect.
And does the Philadelphia Water Department keep this document in its normal course and scope of business?
Yes, correct.
And to your knowledge, are re-inspection records made and recorded at or near the time that the event occurs, i.e. when they go out for re-inspection?
Yes,
Okay. And in this particular case, you did not complete this re-inspection, correct?
correct. I did not.
It was done by an inspector, Wage or Wog, if you will.
Yes.
And based on this document, a re-inspection occurred on May 17th, 2022. Is that accurate?
Yes,
And at that time, is it accurate that no repairs had been made to the defective vent pipe based on this
Can I-
re-inspection record?
Can I make an objection?
Sure. What is your objection?
So number one, I've never seen this document. Number two, he wasn't present when this re-inspection occurred, nor
So what is your objection? What is your objection?
he wasn't present. He doesn't have firsthand knowledge of what
Okay.
Inspector Wang did because he never gained entry to the property.
Okay.
I'm-
All right. Let me respond to the objection. I've heard the objection, and based on how we normally do these things, a person from the department, we've accepted their review of departmental documents in the past, and so the objection is met as overruled. Mr. Denenberg, you can of course make your arguments as you would like when you present your case. Thank you. Ms. Athanasiadis, please proceed.
Thank you. Mr. Ballard, based on this document, this inspection record, is it accurate, or can you tell me what where my cursor is, can you read that for the record?
Yes, found no repairs made to defective vent pipe. Customer's car bumper is back over top of curb box. Customer refuses to remove vehicle. Refer to distribution to shut property off at the furrow.
Okay. Now, that was done back in May. And give me a second, sir.
He needs to say seal somewhere, and I never seen it.
To your knowledge, give me a second. As you sit here today, have there been any repairs done to the defective vent pipe at 710 North Second Street?
To my knowledge, no, there haven't been any repairs made.
Okay. I have no further questions at this time of Mr. Ballard.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Denenberg, you have any cross-examination?
I do, thank you. Mr. Ballard, were you aware that the city water department was digging outside 710-712 North Second Street in 2019?
I'm gonna object as to relevance. This NOD is from 2022. Anything 3 years prior, I would represent is irrelevant. There was no violation issued. There was no appeal based
Okay,
on any of
well,
that.
wait. Okay, so noted, Mr. Denenberg, just before we proceed here, I'm as I rule on this objection, is there a connection between that work that you need to establish and this later violation?
Yes, so in
Okay.
2019, the city of Philadelphia Water Department was digging extensively outside this property to find out where there was a sewer leak in 19.
Okay, all right, well,
I
let's do
didn't
this.
interrupt- Can I just say, something? I never interrupted council,
Oh.
so I would appreciate her not interrupting me.
She was making an objection, which I was ruling on, and I've overruled her objection. But also, sir, what I'd like you to do, Mr. Denenberg, we're going to ask that you cross him based on his testimony. And we won't give you much room to go far afield from that. Understood?
I understand, but I think I should have some leeway because the city was
Well,
digging.
I've just responded to you. I'm not going
you.
to give you a lot of leeway. So you understood what I said. So please proceed.
Sir, were you aware that there was a dye test that was done in January of 19?
No,
Did you look at any records that the water department had prior to going out to the property in January of 2022?
I'm gonna object.
So noted, Mr. Athanasiadis. I've noted, overruled. Please answer, Mr. Ballard.
okay. Repeat the question, please.
Were you aware that there were dye tests and boreholes?
Mr. Denberg, that wasn't your question. And if you can phrase it the way you did before, it'd be helpful.
My question was, were you aware that the city was out in January of 2019?
No, actually, your question was, did I look at any records prior to 2022? Would you like to ask me that question again, sir?
You can answer that question.
No, I didn't look at any records prior to.
When you first went out to the property, you knew the phone number of Mr. Hadar, did you not?
No, I did not.
How did you know that Mr. Hadar contacted the water department?
Excuse me?
How did you know that Mr. Hadar, the owner of 710 North Second Street, contacted the water department?
I'm gonna object as to the characterization. What the testimony was is that a work order was received.
And he said it was received from Mr. Hadar.
No, if I may respond, he
Yes.
indicated, he looked at a record that indicated how that matter became known to the Philadelphia Water Department.
Did you ever reach out to Mr. Hadar to gain entry to the interior of 710 North Second Street?
No, because that's not routine work when we're dealing with cave-ins outside of properties. We only access properties in the event that we need to get into the basement as far as a WC, like I explained earlier. For a cave-in, hold on, before a cave-in, unless it's directly impacting the property, i.e. water going against the foundation, dye coming in through our dye test in the cave-in, we do not have to necessarily access the property to either check a cave-in or a depression out in the city street.
Could you show this panel any photographs of a cave-in on the pavement of 710 North Second Street in January of 2022?
Could I show any photos?
Yeah, did you take any photos?
No.
Did you take any photos of a cave-in in the street by the vent cover on January 2022?
No, because that's not routine work. That's not what we do.
Now, you told the panel that you never went into the basement of 710 North Second Street when you originally went out there. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
You had access to 710 North Second Street by going in to the commercial property to see if there was.
Mr. Denenberg,
Can you object?
sustained. That's asked and answered, and that wasn't part of his testimony.
I asked him if he had access.
But that wasn't part of his testimony. So I'm asking you to move
This is
on.
cross-examination.
I know what it is. I asked you to move on.
The vent pipe to this property. Were you aware that in January of 2022 that the vent pipe was and curb trap was totally exposed from the basement up into the street?
No. Not understated.
Want to share my screen?
Mr. Denenberg, was that wait a minute, before you do that, Mr. Denenberg, before you do that.
I'm here.
Where are we heading with this? What is it that?
I would have made an opening, but I'll tell you.
But we
what
chose
opening.
not to, so let's not go over that dead horse, okay? Where are you headed?
The entire curb trap and vent pipe is totally exposed from the basement floor up into the street.
And is that, well, let me ask you this. Will it be your position? Will it be your testimony by your client that it's not defective?
Exactly.
Okay,
It's all
so
open.
why don't we do this then? Why don't we get to your testimony, unless Ms. Athanasiadis has additional witnesses, why don't we get to you putting on your case?
What?
And then you can always call Mr. Ballard will be here. He's not going anywhere. You can always call him back for recross.
Okay.
Okay, Mr.
I'll
Athanasiadis, do you
reserve,
have?
I'll reserve my right to call Mr. Ballard again after I call
Sure.
my.
Okay, Ms. Athanasiadis, and my apologies for your name. Do you have any additional witnesses?
I do not, Chairman Woodson.
Okay, now what we will do is at the end, each of you will be offered the opportunity to have closing argument. And so if you feel there's a very specific point of law that you want to stress or a fact you want to put on the record, please understand you will have an opportunity to do that. Mr. Denenberg, is your opportunity to put your case on.
Mr. Hadar, you have been sworn in. State your name.
My name is Adar Levy.
How,
Okay, did we swear him in already? I don't think we did.
We never
We
swore.
did not. No, we didn't swear him in. So raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you give today be the truth so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you.
Mr.
Mr.
Hadar,
Denenberg? Yeah.
when did you first purchase 710 North Second Street?
2002.
Look at them.
I'm sorry, 2002.
In 2019, did you contact the Water Revenue Department?
Yes, I did.
Why did you contact the water department in 2019?
Because I had water in my basement, along with my neighbors had water in the basement.
I'm going to share my screen. Photo 1.
Chairman, if I may, again, I'm gonna object as to relevance.
Okay, I'm going to ask Mr. Denenberg, so noted. We'll ask Mr. Denenberg to connect the dots here pretty quickly.
So in 2019, this water department came out, dug significantly around the property.
I'm gonna object, and if
I
Mr.
let her
Dunn,
go.
I apologize, you're making statements, but there's nothing on the screen. What you're indicating,
Yes, you said you were putting up an exhibit. I don't have it.
Okay.
You don't have it.
You know,
can't
You can't see. exhibit.
No. All we see a file list, but nothing else.
Okay,
I'm sorry, you see what?
It's a list of files, a list of items, but no items themselves.
How about now?
Yes.
thank you. My client will testify that in January of 2019.
Well, let's let him testify and not you. Put him on if he's been
Direct-
sworn. Let him testify.
You recognize this picture, sir?
Yes, I
What-
do.
What does this picture depict?
A week before that,
What does the picture depict?
a hole in front, not in my property.
Was there any sewer water that was in the street because of the broken vent pipe in 2019?
No,
Why was the city digging in January of 2019 in front of the property at 710 and 712?
because they couldn't find anything wrong with my property. So they made sound tests and they figure it's the adjacent property to me.
Mr. Denberg, what's the date of that
Excuse me, Mr.
photo?
Chair,
Yes, just a minute, just a minute.
I don't see a date, I don't see a date
That's what I'm
nor
asking.
location.
Yeah,
I don't
that's,
see a location either.
Mr. Denberg, could you give us a date of this photo and the location of that photo?
Sure, so the location is the property that you see, you'll see an alleyway that divides 710 to the left and 712 to the right.
And so who took these photos?
My client.
And who was that?
I'm sorry?
Who is that? You need him to authenticate the
the
photo.
photos.
Mr. Hadar, did you take these photographs that are all going to be shown in exhibits 1 through 11?
Yes, I did.
And the dates.
When did you take this picture, sir?
This one was the 20, this one I believe is, let me see, I need to,
How about the month and year?
2019, January 30th, 2019, to be more specific.
Okay, and this shows work that was being done in front of your property prior to the violation notice.
This is not in front of my client's property. My client owns the property to the left of the telephone pole.
Okay, and what impact does that hole have on your client's property?
The city was attempting to determine where the water is coming from.
And water that was in his property?
It was in the basement of his property, yes.
Okay, alrighty.
Chairman Woodson, I know we're gonna allow this question, but again, please note my continued objection as to relevance. This is from 2019. And also, this was nothing that was appealed for the matter we're here for today, but I understand.
Okay, alrighty. And Mr. Denberg, I need you to connect the dots between that action, if it's relevant, to the appeal which you submitted.
So the water department is well aware that there is a problem in 2019 with water running underneath the streets. And no citation was ever issued to my client regarding the fresh water that is running underneath the street.
Okay, now how does that relate to the violation that was written for the vent pipe?
Because there is no broken vent pipe
Well, let's get to that point then. If that's the issue, if that's your appeal, get to that, because that's what we need to see.
Let's go to 6. Going to share screen 6. Mr. Hadar, can you tell us who took this picture?
Yes, you did.
And who was with me when I took this picture?
I was.
Did you allow me into the basement of 710 North 2nd Street
Yes, I did.
in March of 2023?
Yes, I did.
Was there any sewage on the floor of the basement of 710 North 2nd Street?
No,
Has there ever been any sewage on the floor of the front of the building at 710 North 2nd Street?
no.
What does this picture depict? Looking at it.
This is the main sewer line that actually leading right to the street. But if you see the column on the left is a concrete column.
We'll get there.
Oh, okay.
Now, just one moment, Mr. Denenberg, you
Yep.
said that you were going to connect the broken vent pipe with
I
this.
am
photo.
going to get to that. The
There's
sewer-
no way to observe a vent pipe in this photo.
We're going to get there. We're going to get there. Give me an
Okay.
opportunity.
Okay, let's get there.
Share number 7. Do you recognize this picture, Mr. Hadar?
Yes, I do.
What is this picture?
This is the famous vent pipe.
Is the vent pipe exposed in the basement?
Yes,
Does that wall touch the street? If you can come down from the street, does the basement extend to the curb of the street?
correct. In fact, it's
No.
right. Yes, correct.
Now,
Oh, shit.
wait a minute, before you move off this photo, is there any way to determine if that vent pipe is defective beneath the floor of the basement?
The vent pipe goes up. It
It
doesn't.
also goes down and goes
We're
out.
gonna give you a
But-
picture.
But
We're
I'm
gonna
asking
give
a
you-
question. I'm asking a question, sir. Does this photo tell us anything about the condition of the vent pipe beneath the floor on the other side of the wall?
That's not what they're saying is the.
But that's what I'm asking you and your client.
We have a report that there's nothing wrong with the vent pipe. The vent
Okay,
pipe
if you have
goes
such a
north.
report, then that's helpful because this photo doesn't tell me anything.
We're gonna give me an opportunity, Chairman, please.
Okay, Miss Athanasiadis, I think, has an objection to make. Let's hear.
No, I was just trying to find out when this photo was taken by
These
whom.
were all taken in March of 2023.
Okay, and then I just please note my objection as I hadn't received, as Mr. Denenberg indicated previously, any of this till today. And, okay,
Does this,
Just one thing, one procedural issue, Mr. Denenberg. Did you submit all your attachments and evidence prior to today's hearing?
I did to council today, and I received her documents today.
Did they
And I
include
didn't
all of
make any
these?
objections to her documents.
But I'm asking the question, sir. You hadn't allowed me to finish my question. Did your list of attachments and evidence include these photos?
Today, yes,
The ones you shared with the city today,
yes.
prior to the hearing?
So, when I received hers at 2 o'clock, I sent mine at 2 o'clock. I never received any of her documents.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So
I'm not going to get off on a separate trail. I just want to clear that off. Okay, please continue, Mr. Denenberg.
Mr. Hadar, do you see? You see the vent trap in this picture?
Yes,
Has there been any cracks in this picture of sewage coming out of the vent stack?
no,
Were you aware that the city came out in 2019 and did a dye test?
yes.
8, hold that, Tommy, please. 8. Let me show you. What does this picture depict?
This is the dye powder the water department left when they ran the test in 2019. That's what it is.
I'm
Has that
gonna
been sitting
object.
has that been sitting in the basement since 2019?
Yes, in the same place.
Has the city ever come back inside the basement to look to see if there is a defect in the vent pipe or the stack that goes to the curb?
No,
Mr. Denenberg, one question I would have, I'd like to interject though. This violation was, I think, dated in 2022, correct?
It is, and nobody's come, nobody's.
Please, it may take me a minute to get my questions completely out. So my question to you is, if there was separate tests done in 2022, what's the connection, what's the relevance of this 2019 test?
Because there's no broken vent stack in this matter. That's what we were cited for.
Okay,
It
and
says-
also, I would expect at some point during this hearing, you're going to put on evidence from a plumber or some of the expert that says there's nothing defective about the vent stack.
Go to exhibit 10. Share the screen for exhibit 10. Mr. Hadar, were you present when Ed Hughes and Son Plumbing came out to the property in November of 2022?
yes,
And did you walk them into the basement?
yes,
Did you see any sewage or sewage smell from a broken vent stack in November of 2022?
no,
Did you take them outside to open the vent cap in this, on the street curb?
yes,
Did they run a camera down to see if there was a broken vent stack?
they didn't find anything.
And is that what this report shows?
Correct.
It doesn't show that.
No, not
Found-
the
That's my
video.
objection.
video.
That's not
That's not a video.
what the report indicates. I'll accept it as his client's testimony, but I object to the characterization that that's the information in the report.
The report says found vent is intact.
Excuse
Okay.
me, Mr. Chair, maybe there's another photo, another form, but it doesn't say anything about a camera being placed down into it.
Yeah, because
Okay.
And I think testimony was just given that a camera was placed in it.
That's
And
what he
on
said.
this receipt, I see nothing in there about it.
Excuse me.
Okay,
There's no issue with the vent. This is what we were cited for. There's no issue with the vent. That's what it says.
okay. So noted.
Okay,
I have a question. Ms. Anastasia, I just want to verify that the violation noted was for a broken vent pipe or a broken vent stack?
Mr.
Says vent
Tennant,
pipe.
Mr. Denenberg, he asked Ms. Athanasiadis, let her respond.
you are correct, Mr. Tennant. It was a defective vent pipe.
Okay, so with that, Mr. Denenberg, this report reads, found vent is intact, no issues with the vent, not the pipe itself. Not overall the pipe.
The pipe is all exposed.
The pipe runs through the basement and out to the street. So that part is not exposed.
Right? That's not a vent pipe, that's a lateral. They didn't say the lateral's broken, they said the vent pipe.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you very much.
let's continue. I just want to keep
Thank you.
things
I
clear.
stand corrected. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
let's proceed. Let's continue.
When Hughes Plumbing left, were you present when they looked down the vent to see that there was no crack in the vent pipe?
Yes, no
And is
crack
that-
whatsoever.
And is that what the city of Philadelphia left on January 27th, 2022? Vent says vent pipe. Is that what that says, sir?
Yes,
Not that anything was wrong with any other part. Is that correct?
correct.
That's all the questions I have.
Thank you. Ms. Athanasiadis, do you have any cross-examination?
I do. Mr. Nasimi, are you a plumber?
No, I don't. No, I'm not.
Okay. And your counsel showed some photographs from 2019. Prior to the call you made to the city in this particular case in January 2022, had you ever notified the city of Philadelphia regarding any issues you had with the water department?
Yes, of course.
Okay, And when you contacted the city, is that why the city came out in 2019 to investigate?
Correct.
Okay, and what was the purpose of the call to the city back when you called? Was it 2018, 2019, when they came to your property?
The same reason that I called, picked up after COVID to call 311. I had
Okay.
water in the basement and I said, I have to pick it up because for 2 years I couldn't get in touch with the city.
Okay, so back in 2018, you called the city because you had water in your basement?
Myself and my neighbor.
Okay, but I'm asking you about yourself because you can't tell me about your neighbor.
2019.
Repeat the question, please. I'm sorry, Alexandra.
Oh, it's okay. When the city came out in 2019, you showed photographs of the work the water department was doing. Before the water department came out to your location, had you contacted the city?
Yes, I did.
And that was the reason they were there?
Correct.
Okay, and what was the reason you contacted the city back in 2019?
To pick up, the matter never resolved because of COVID entered our life. And therefore, I picked it up afterwards when I called 311 in 2022. And for my surprise, and the whole idea with 712, it's because they realized they ran sound tests. They came to my basement, they looked at the vent pipe, they ran dye tests, and because they exhaust all those options, they made my neighbor open his side.
Okay, I'm gonna not, I don't want to know anything about your neighbor. Your neighbor didn't appeal. You're the one that appealed. So I'd like you to just keep your testimony to what you know and what you've done. Okay? When they came out in 2019, you told them you had water in your cellar. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and they investigated. Did you ever get a notice of violation back then?
No.
No. Okay. Chairman, if I may share my screen.
Yes.
Okay. This is, Mr. Nassimi, this is a record that I've, based on what you're telling me. Back on 12/21/2018, you contacted regarding water in your cellar, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and let me just go down to the end of these work orders. You indicated that they ultimately closed the matter out, correct?
I'm sorry?
You indicated that you never received the violation, correct?
Correct.
And did you continue to have water in your basement following?
No.
No.
If the
Mr.
appellant
Chair,
could
I
be
hear
answering?
someone's coaching him.
Yes,
Someone's
exactly.
coaching him.
No, but I didn't have it on the.
Okay, but
No, no.
just for a moment. Mr. Nassimi, you have to be the one responding, and also because we have a court reporter, we can't have multiple voices. And so if you need some time to talk with your attorney, then we'll go off the record and allow you to do that. But actively responding to a question from the opposing counsel, you really can't have any other voices. Understood?
Understood.
Thank you.
Mr. Nassimi, back in 2019, is it accurate that, and again, I'm basing this off of the record I've just pulled up, that the water department made an inspection, there was no water in your cellar, and that you indicated that the problem had been resolved?
I never indicated that the problem being resolved.
Okay, so do you have any documentation to indicate that since 2019, you contacted the city in any way, shape, or form other than the request that came in? Give me a second, sir. Other than the 311 request that came in January 2022, that prompted the water department to come back to your location?
What's the question again? I'm so sorry.
My question is, I have notice and a record that you contacted the water department in 2018 regarding water in your cellar. The water department came to your location. I have a record that indicates that you contacted the water department, or I apologize, the city, in January 2022, and the water department came to your location. Between 2019 and 2022, do you have any record to indicate that you contacted the water department or the city in any way regarding an ongoing water in your cellar issue?
No, it was COVID time. I couldn't go anywhere in that time.
Okay, do you currently have any water in your cellar?
No, I don't.
Okay. And you've not made any repairs based on the notice that you received from the city back in January 2022, is that correct, sir?
Correct.
Okay, I have no further questions for Mr.
Just a
Nassimi.
few questions. Is there a broken curb trap there?
No,
Is there a broken vent pipe in the property?
no.
Is that what you were cited by the city when you received the notice dated January 27, 2022? Vent pipe. Is that what you received, sir?
Yes.
That's all the questions I have.
I
Okay,
have a
thank-
question,
Mr.
Mr.
Chair. I
Chair,
have a
from Mr. Nasami.
Yeah, we got
I
a
do
couple
have a
questions
question.
coming in. Okay, let's
Mr.
do this.
Nasami,
Wait, Mr. Tanner, just because we have multiple questions coming at the same time. So Mr. Tanner, you go, then Mr. Washington, okay?
Mr. Nasami, Ms. Anastasia asked you between 2019 and 2022, did you contact the city of Philadelphia regarding water in your basement? Your response was it was because of COVID. And she stated 2019. So COVID didn't come into effect until March of 2022. So you had the whole entire year of 2019 to report to the city that there was water in your basement, and you did not do so. But your reasoning for that 1 year was that due to COVID.
Not only through COVID, it was an ongoing from 2019, and therefore they went to 712, my neighbors, to
Let's talk
find the
about you, sir.
problem, and I thought it was in their hands to find the problem. So I simply hauled back because I couldn't do
Okay, so
anything. And
my
I still
question
had the
again,
problem.
my question, sir, was, let me spell it out correctly. Why did you not contact the city in 2019 about an issue of water in your basement?
In 2019, I did contact the city.
We have no record to indicate that. That's what Ms. Anastasi testified.
In 2019, I have the pictures that I took from the water department who dug the street next to me, thanks to 710, because the water department exhausted, they couldn't figure it out the problem for my building. So they
Okay.
went and shut off the water next door to me. And therefore, I thought I'm off the hook, not off the hook, but I'm waiting for answers from the city.
My question again, sir, is why did you not contact the city in 2019? Or did you not contact the city
On
in
2019,
2019?
I did contact them.
Ms. Anastasi said there's no record of that. City has no record of that.
When she says no record, is it 311 no record or the water department no record? Because I have extensive
Photographs.
Ms. Anastasi?
Yeah, if I may respond, the most recent time the water department went out in 2022, that was referred to the water department. So it's not that you contacted the water department directly. That information came to the water department. When the water department went out back in 2019, let me try to find the records again. You contacted the water department directly about water in your cellar. That was in December 2018. As indicated, the water department went out in 2019 and performed extensive testing. And they found no leak. And then based on the notes in the records, you had expressed to them, again, this is based on the record I have, owner states the problem has resolved and closed out. So that was closed out in February 2019.
No, I
And
never.
for 2019, the next time any report was made to the water department was 2022 about a depression in the street. And that's what triggered the water department to go out this most recent time for the actual notice we're here for today.
So,
Okay.
Ms. Anastasia, could you just repeat the date that it was closed out in 2019 that he said?
Yes, one second, Mr. Tennant. It was closed out. It says, I will share my screen.
Thank
So
you.
there's no confusion. That the water department actually had also dismantled the fire hydrant to see if a leak was found hydrant bone dry. Hydrant was no leak. Per Anthony Fortune, February 20th, 2019, made inspection, no water in cellar. Owner states problem resolved, closed out.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Washington, you had a question?
I'm sorry, I just want to be clear. Mr. Hadar, who is Levi Hadar?
I am.
Okay, because you, from what I'm reading, you made the phone call. I want to now ask the inspector, Mr. Ballard. Could Mr. Ballard?
Yes.
Yeah.
A real question for you. On the notice of defect with the work order, it has down the bottom, it says at 5:36:24 p.m. made boreholes and die in deference to a vent pipe. It's shifted. Is that what you're stating, that the vent pipe shifted?
Well, for the vent pipe tip, it's all supposed to be one piece. So when they become defective in multiple ways. One of the ways they become defective is by shifting or
And
having
so,
cracks or so
oh, no,
forth and so on.
let's stay with that. So by this report, it's not stating who did the report, but it does say vent pipe shifted, notice of defect served. So if the shifted, it wouldn't show a crack, would it?
No.
The only way that you will find out that it's shifted if you dug up the street, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now I want to get back to Mr. Hadar. Is there a reason why you reported this to the city on in 122, but didn't have a plumber come out to 10 months later?
Yes, because I was foolish enough, which I thought I'm gonna resolve the matter by myself, by talking to the supervisor at the time. And I thought but with simple communication, we would actually attack the problem together, but that wasn't the case.
And it's your testimony that the plumber that you contracted with put a camera down into the pipe?
No camera.
No camera was done?
No camera. What he did, he came and I gave him access. He came, we introduced each other. He looked at the trap. I showed him where the trap. I showed him that the whole trap is under the curbside because my basement goes under the curbside. So he said to me, excellent. And when he came down, he said to me, it's all good. And I said, how do you know you didn't do anything? He's like, I'm looking at it. It's all intact in one piece. I said, so what should I do? Could you write me something? And that's when he wrote me a letter.
So he never inspected the pipe outside.
He did.
He only went into the basement, correct?
We started from the outside.
Okay, wait, stop right there. Stop right there. What did he do when he went on the outside?
He went and he looked into the trap. He moved that screen that I have over there. He moved it and he looked at it and he observed it. And then he asked for permission to show him the basement.
So he never did anything outside your property besides look into the pipe.
Correct.
No more questions, Your Honor.
But I do have to.
Oh, wait, Mr. Yeah, you have to just in terms procedurally, because you have a lawyer there. He's going to direct you when to volunteer information, and I would recommend that you not volunteer anything unless he directs you to, for your own benefit.
Thank you, Mr. Woodson.
But I do want to check this out, Mr. Ballard. You should unmute yourself. The written violation is for the vent pipe, correct, or the vent stack?
Correct.
Is the vent pipe and the vent stack the same thing?
Yes, it's just terminology.
Okay, now, given that the sewer crawler saw dye, means that there's water entering the system somewhere, correct?
Correct.
Is it possible that it was mislabeled and it's the lateral that's the defective and not the pipe, vent pipe?
Objection. Can I make my objection?
Sure,
That
you
is
can object.
beyond- That's
What is the
beyond
objection?
the violation that was written.
I noticed that, but I'm
know, but
overruling
we
the
don't- we
objection.
don't- That's what
I've
we're
noted
here
your
for today.
objection. I've
That's
noted your
what we're here
objection.
for today.
I've noted your objection and I'm overruling it, and I'd like an answer to my question. Is it possible that is lateral?
No, because we couldn't see a lateral from topside.
No,
Entry
no,
would've had to be-
I'm talking about the sewer crawler, when he went in the sewer, and he noted, is that how you noted the dye was coming in through a sewer crawler, or was it through the boreholes?
No, it was through a topside inspection. No one had to make
Ah,
entry because
okay.
we seen dye coming in through the vent pipe up
Okay.
top.
Okay,
The,
all right.
the dye test that I guess that they're referring to the other guys that they made or whatever they did, they wouldn't be able to perform the same dye test we did without a hole.
Okay.
Dye testing from inside the property, it just goes straight into the main drain, straight to the lateral. You
Okay.
can't get dye into a vent pipe from outside, from inside the property. That's not how it works. It goes through the main drain, straight through the curb track, through the lateral, not
Okay.
into a vent pipe.
Now, in this instance, the construction that was shown, the photographs that were entered into the record, indicates that the vent pipe is exposed in basement and it attaches through the wall going into the lateral. And so the question is it possible to have a defective vent pipe or stack in this instance and it not be visible to the eye?
Yes, and that's why we have to use water and trace dye, because if everything was just visible to the eye or visible to a camera, then we wouldn't have to use the dye. There's a reason we use water and dye, because water, everyone knows water is very malleable. It finds its way to the
Okay.
smallest hole.
Now, is the device that goes through the wall, is that also the vent stack or the vent pipe, or is that now becomes a different thing? Is it
No, so typically with the way the plumbing is set up, outside of the property wall, inside the property wall, you have the main drain. On the outside of the property, you have the vent pipe, curb track, and a lateral. Mr. Levy is stating that his property extends under the footway all the way to the city street, and that his vent pipe and curb track and everything is all encased in his property. That's what he's stating.
right? Okay, but I'm saying that once it goes through the wall, is that remain a vent pipe or does it become a different thing? Is it now the lateral? I'm asking because I think part of the issue here is terminology and whether or not the vent pipe continues through the wall. Where does it? And maybe
No.
if you had that, do you have that graphic, Ms. Athanasiadis, that will show us?
Customer responsibility chart.
Yes. Yes,
That
bring that up.
becomes the lateral.
Yeah, we want to see how that graphic works. Okay, if you would point out, Mr. Ballard, the vent stack and also the lateral.
Okay, so as you can see, the vent stack in this situation would be G. You see, typically the way it's always set up for the most part is outside of the property. Inside the property would be I, main drain.
Okay, wait a minute before you move on. Okay. Now the photos that we saw are suggesting that G is visible in the basement.
Correct. And H. Because they're saying the curb trap is also visible in the basement. So they're saying G and H is visible.
Okay.
Inside the property.
Right. Okay. And so H goes through, in this instance, H would then go through the wall, I guess. And then it becomes a lateral on the other side of the wall.
You mean inside or outside of the property?
Outside the property.
No, so once it's outside the property, you still have, you see it says I is still part of the main house drain. It doesn't switch to the lateral until it gets to the other side of the vent and curb track.
Okay, and that's what I'm asking, because in the photos we saw, the testimony was that G, the G, which is the vent pipe, it's exposed in the basement.
Yeah,
That-
that's what he's
That's what they were,
claiming.
that's the testimony, is that it's exposed. And so we saw where that G connected with the drain, the house drain. They all came together right there in that corner before they went through the wall
The
in
trap,
that photograph,
the trap.
the trap. But that's what I'm asking. I'm not sure where that trap shows up, whether that
Right.
trap is on the other side or whether that trap is exposed in the basement.
Well, in this situation, from what they're claiming,
Yes.
outside of their property wall would only be D and E, which is the lateral and the slant.
Okay, that's what I was asking.
According to their testimony.
Correct.
But typically, according to this graphic and what we see everywhere else, it's built just like this on this graphic.
Okay, now who's responsible for maintaining the lateral?
Property owner. The city only remains responsible for the things if she took the graph away.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were done.
That's okay.
Okay. All right, thank you
Um,
very much. Is any other questions?
On that, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Since they were saying G and H is inside the house,
Yes.
where is F? When he said that the guy went outside the property, lifted up the screen over the vent pipe. So
Yeah.
where's F?
According to the testimony, F, the way their property is constructed, his basement extends under the sidewalk.
Yes,
And so F is above his head in the sidewalk. That was his testimony.
that's the vent cover.
Yep.
Yes.
I have a question for Mr. Ballard, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Mr. Ballard, there was a conversation about a vent pipe shifting. Where on this chart would you indicate, or were you able to indicate a possible shifting of the vent pipe? Would it be
Yes.
just strictly G going downward
Yes.
and shifting either to the left or the right of the property?
Actually, anything, so if it's not directly in line with F, which is the vent box, the vent cover,
Correct?
then that would be technically considered shifted.
So that shifting could take place anywhere from the ground point of letter F to below ground at letter G. That piece of pipe in there could shift, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so with that said, that pipe sits, it appears on this chart that it sits very close to L, the water supply, and M, the curb trap, right?
On this graph,
On this graph,
Yes.
yeah. So is there some room in between the two pipes, or do they touch each other?
no, they don't touch. I guess for this graphic to be able to
Yeah.
explain everything all in one, it's like that, but there's space in between.
So if
Always.
it did shift, it would push D out of line, which is the lateral, correct?
Objection.
I'm asking a question, sir, of Mr.
Well,
Ballard.
Yeah, the Mr. Dinneberg, the board members have wide latitude in the questions they ask.
But
And
that's,
so what is your objection?
my objection is we are not here for a broken lateral.
We
are
understand
here
that.
For a
We-
broken or shifting vent pipe that's all exposed.
We understand that. And any decision that's made will be based on the violations as they're written.
Well,
Understand? Okay.
Mr. Chair, with that comment, and I'll go back to that. It shows here on this graph that the vent pipe, when he says is all exposed, Mr. Ballard, is the entire vent pipe in 710 North Second Street totally exposed in the basement? Or from this chart, there are areas of that vent pipe that are underground, correct?
No,
On this chart, it's underground, and the exhibits they showed, the only part that would be visible is close to the curb trap. They never even showed. Never mind. It's
No, you're
not
correct.
completely
And the
exposed.
parts on the photo show that the vent pipe goes outside of the building towards the street. That's what I
it's
see.
not the vent
clear.
pipe going outside.
Mr. Dinneberg, Mr.
me-
Dinneberg, you're not to respond. He's asking a question of Mr. Ballard. This is not an argument.
And I'll phrase it a different way, Mr. Chair. So, Mr. Ballard, is there a possibility of the type of design of this particular vent pipe at 710 North Second Street? Is it possible that a portion of it may go outside of the building in the basement?
Yes, it should be outside. It should be, you should be able to see it curbside, i.e. F. So when you outside the property, you can access the vent pipe. So like he's stating his property stretches always to the curb line. Okay, his whole plumbing, the way according to his testimony, excuse me, all his plumbing except for D and E is located inside the property. So only his lateral and slant would be outside his property, but F and parts of G would still be outside of the property, technically speaking, because there's not hollow ground. There has to be some type of foundation under the footway for people and properties to exist.
Thank you. That's what I thought. Thank you very much.
Okay.
You're welcome.
All right, let's do this then. You can take that down, Ms. Athanasiadis. Thank you so much. If no one has any additional witnesses, I will invite final argument. Mr.
I
Denenberg?
have a couple of extra questions, and may I ask Mr.
Yes.
Ballard?
Yes, please.
Mr. Ballard, do you have any photograph showing that the vent pipe, which is in exhibit that council just put up, G, has shifted?
I'm going to object, asked and answered. Mr. Ballard previously testified he did not take photographs while on site.
Okay.
Do you have any firsthand knowledge that the vent pipe shifted?
Firsthand knowledge?
Yeah.
According to the dye test, that would be firsthand knowledge. Yes, I have.
Do you
that.
have any, did you ever see the vent pipe inside the basement of 710?
I did not have to access the property, sir.
Hold on, wouldn't it be important?
Objection asked and answered and beyond the scope of what was redirect or recrossed by the board.
Mr. Denenberg, you did ask those questions earlier and he answered them. You did ask that question earlier. So I'm going to have to sustain the objection.
That he never went in the basement?
Yes, that was clear. You asked that question 3 different ways.
Hold on 1 second.
Okay, Ms. Athanasiadis, do you have any additional witnesses or questions?
No additional witnesses. Mr. Ballard, the dye test that was performed, or to issue a notice.
Mr. Dennisberg, please don't interrupt. She hasn't even gotten the question out yet.
I know, but why? I'm not sure. Why is she able to?
Because I asked her if she had any additional questions, and she does. I asked, so she's responding to my inquiry. Ms. Athanasiadis, please.
Mr. Ballard, are you able to indicate, or once conducting a dye test, are you able to issue a notice of defect without entering a property?
Objection. This was
so noted. Overruled.
Yes. Yes. Correct.
I have no further questions.
Thank you. Now, what I would like to do is I would invite each of you, the council, to have final argument if you'd like. The board will then take a moment in executive session, then we'll come back and vote. Is there any, Mr. Denenberg, would you like to lead off, please?
Sure. The facts of this matter is that Inspector Ballard or anybody from the City of Philadelphia Water Department ever went into the basement in 2022 to see if the vent pipe has shifted. This is the violation. The violation is clear. Vent pipe. The vent pipe is exposed from the top of the sidewalk until it enters into the wall. There has never been any testimony of sewage water in my client's basement. This is what this is about. The vent pipe puts the sewage out into the street, and there has never been any testimony of sewage in my client's basement, or that the city saw. Can Mr. Ballard put his hand down?
Mr. Ballard, please put your hand down, Mr. Ballard. You're Ms. Athanasiadis's witness. So if you have any additional comments, call her and talk to her about it.
I apologize. That's what attention I was trying to get. I apologize.
Yeah. So, well, before you go on, Mr. Denenberg, if the two of you need to change numbers, you should do that so you can talk to her, or she can ask to have a moment with you if there's needed be before she does her final argument. So I'll just each side has that ability to do that. Just want to make sure you understand. So give her a call if you need to, but you can't do it on the record.
Thank you. This is an unusual case because I never had a case when the entire vent pipe is exposed. 99.9% of the cases that the city investigates is that the vent pipe is underneath the ground of the sidewalk. That's not the situation we have here. We have a solid, intact vent pipe that connects to the curb, to the clean out on the pavement. As the photographs show that were taken less than 3 weeks ago, no sewage in the basement, no sewage smell, and nothing wrong with the vent pipe that runs from the floor to the sidewalk underneath the sidewalk, all exposed. We hired our own plumber to come out to say if there's a problem with the vent pipe. Ed Hughes, who does a majority of the work for the city of Philadelphia as a subcontractor, says that the vent is intact, no issues with the vents. That's what the city cited my client for. And as of today, there are no issues with the vent pipe. If there's other violations which are not in front of this board, then this matter should be dismissed for lack of evidence against Mr. Hadar. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Athanasiadis, do you have any closing argument? And you're muted at the moment, ma'am.
I do, Chairman Woodson. Just a few things. Number one, the vent pipe doesn't carry sewage.
Okay.
The sewage travels through the main drain, the curb trap, the lateral, and the slant. So lack of sewage in a basement doesn't mean that the vent pipe is not defective. Number two, the records show that there was a depression. They came out, they did a dye test. Mr. Ballard credibly testified that you don't need to enter a property in order to perform a dye test and show where there is a defect. Mr. Ballard also credibly testified that there could be a defect or a condition that might be not visible to the naked eye. I would also point out that we accepted Mr. Nassimi's testimony based on what is or isn't defective based on photos in the basement. He testified he wasn't a plumber, and the dye test that was done, there was no indication that it was invalid or inaccurate. Mr. Ballard also credibly testified that they didn't need to enter the basement, and they normally only enter the basement is if there's a report for water in the cellar, which is what happened back in 2018, which is why the appellant by his own volition said, oh, this is the dye that the city used. Yes, they entered the basement in 2018 to check because that's what the complaint came in for, water in the cellar. That was ultimately closed out in 2019 after investigation. They went out, the city went back out in 2020 based on a call from Mr. Nassimi for a depression in the street. They did the borehole, they did the dye test, it showed a defective vent pipe. There's nothing presented to indicate that the vent pipe is not defective. So I would ask for the board to affirm the city NOD in this matter.
Okay, thank you. The board will go into executive session. We will be off the record. It's 3:53 at the moment. We will attempt to be back by 4 p.m. We appreciate your patience as we deliberate. Athanasiadis. Oh, sorry about that, Mr. Rob. We ready? Okay, back on the record. Ms. Athanasiadis, is there anything in your records to indicate whether the street depression remains at that location or not?
There is not, Chairman Woodson.
Okay. Okay. Alrighty. We will call the vote on HA twenty twenty-two.
Do you want to give Mr. Tennant, I believe he has.
So I'm sorry, he hasn't returned yet? Okay.
Well, he dropped off. Just give him a minute to
Yeah,
return.
okay. My apologies. One of our colleagues has some technical problems, so we're trying to get him back. Once he comes back in the room, we will then record the vote.
In the meantime, Mr. Cohen they came to a resolution. I don't know if you want to have him put that or hold off.
Well, I don't want him to confuse the record here, so just give us another minute or so, see if we can get him back.
I'll try and call him.
Yeah. The wonders of Zoom meetings. Sometimes these things happen.
I feel like the Jeopardy theme will start playing soon.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to propose, that may not be necessary, but I'm going to propose, Mr. Denenberg and Ms. Athanasiadis, that if we cannot get the board member back because of technical difficulties to vote, we hold the vote till our next meeting, which is next Tuesday. I hate to have to do that, but we do want everyone to vote who heard the case. And we also don't want to keep the record open if we don't have to.
It's not here.
He'll be on in a minute.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Maybe we won't have to do that. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, just for the court reporter's record, can I get the appellant's full name? I have Hadar Nassimi, but I also heard Levi. So if you could just state it in full.
Okay.
It's Hadar Nassimi Levi.
Okay, thank you.
Any issues with spelling, Ms. Rob?
No, sir.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Wade, is he showing up yet in the
Not yet. There he is.
Okay.
My apologies, everyone.
Okay.
Chair, had a little bit of an outage and the Wi-Fi went out in the whole community. We're all getting back up now, so
Okay.
thank you for your patience.
Alrighty. We'll poll the board then regarding HA 2022-000729 710 North 2nd Street, Hadar Nassimi. Appeal sustained.
Appeal sustained.
Mr. Pincus.
It
Appeal
does-
sustained.
Mr. Pincus is not voting. He's
That's correct. Appeal sustained.
Appeal sustained.
okay. Majority appeal sustained. That's the ruling of the board. You won your appeal, Mr. Hadar. Thank you very much, everyone, for your participation. Let's move on to the next matter. Thank you. Have a good day.
Can we be excused?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Roll call. Case number 10, hearing appeal number HA 2022-002-557, Frank Kumis, 2643 Titan.
Mr. Cohen, where are we with Mr. Taylor? Mr.
Thankfully,
Taylor,
we've been
you're
able to reach an
muted.
agreement.
Mr. Taylor, you're muted.
One moment.
Okay, there he is. Okay, so Mr. Cohen, share with us how you settle things out.
Well, we reached an agreement between the parties, and as part of that agreement, the appeal should now be withdrawn.
Okay, Mr. Taylor, are you representing your client's interest? Would you go on the record, sir?
That is correct.
Okay, the appeal has been withdrawn.
May we please be excused, members of the board?
Okay, thank you very much. We will note this as appeal withdrawn. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, have a good day, everyone. And I believe that concludes our business for today. Mr. Wade, unless there's something else that we need to do?
And,
Okay,
can we just go into session
sir.
for a minute? There's somebody else who's a lady who just is waving her hand.
Hi, yes, my number was, M1 2022-007096.
Okay, give us your name and what address?
Stephanie Weatherby, and
Okay.
it's for 7526 Overbrook Avenue.
Oh, okay, that matter was rendered moot earlier, meaning
I'm
that
not-
it's been resolved.
Okay, I wasn't sure what that meant, so I just stuck around.
Oh,
But
okay.
thank you.
You're welcome.
So that means everything's okay.
Yes, that means it's resolved.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you and have a great day.
You're welcome.
Ms. O-
Have a good
Ms.
day.
O'Brien, that goes for the same for you.
I had the same exact question. I didn't know what it meant and I thought I had to stay on this whole thing.
Apologies.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay. We're gonna
Thank
go,
you.
the board will go into the breakout room.